Today we are joined by vocalist Ron Keel. Ron has been around for decades. You all remember him from MTV, the 80s, his band Keel. He had the hit song with the Right to Rock. Before that, he was in Steeler. You remember Steeler very well. Introduced the world to Yngwie Malmsteen. And then later on, Ron kind of reinvented himself and sort of followed his muse, and it led him towards a more southern rock, country western type thing. He kind of reinvented himself as the metal cowboy, and he's got a new album called KEELWORLD, and it encompasses all of those phases of his career, all those different genres of music, but all of the material is brand new. So he basically went back and called up all the guys from his previous bands, as many as he could, got them together to cut new music for this album, KEELWORLD. And it came out August 2nd, and it's just a great sort of retrospect career snapshot of Ron Keel.
I think it's a great idea because he's been around a long time, and he's created a bunch of different. I mean, it's him all the time, but there's these different gears. I feel like or these different colors. There you go. Of style, and it's interesting. How would you have this kind of a song and this kind of a song, and I'll have all these different groups of people that I work with, and have them work on material while I'm working on this material. These guys can be working on this material, and I'll just like poke my head in and cut the vocals for that, and next thing you know, he's got KEELWORLD.
Yeah.
And this is something that, I mean, he keeps saying, and this guy's been with me 26 years, and this guy's been with me, 17 years, and blah, add it all up, and it's like his whole life has been KEELWORLD the whole time. And I think that he's fought and worked extremely hard to get, he also says, this is relative. He says he's uncomfortable with the vocals on the Steeler record. And you and I professed and confessed that, no way, dude. That's what I love about you, is that crazy, screechy thing that he probably is trying to say that he does not like, right?
Yeah.
Well, I understand that. I mean,
Sure.
Of course I do. When I listen to early Watchtower shit, I'm like, man, that's just screechy, like honey badger screeching, let's run over some squirrels. That's what it sounds like. And so I get it. I understand. But you know what? That's what, and I'm speaking for you and me, that's what people fall in love with. Something that, whether it's Keel, Cold Day in Hell, Hot on Your Heels, whatever, it could be anything. But that's what resonates and has a memory, kind of like a smell. And I think that's where, even though he's, it's hard to step out personally and see that all the time, even though he does say that he understands what that era of KEELWORLD meant to certain, people. And I'm just glad that he's sort of like keeping all of that alive and and able to go back to the old band pretty much and recreate that and get it to feel and sound like it's like its original idea. And I wanted to say, I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the interview we had with Ron today, which was fantastic. But it's hard to write a song probably about tits and ass when you're 60 than when you're 19. You know what I mean? You're a different human being. You're a different brain. Because if you're not, I can't believe you're still alive.
Yeah. Now you're the creepy guy.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I'm a 60-year-old guy who wrote Sportin' a Woody when he was 22 and have to sing it at 60.
Yeah.
So I'm just laughing at myself the whole time. So I understand that way, but it's probably hard to get it to, and he's also very forthcoming as far as how cheesy it is and how You know, 80s metal guys always love a little bit of cheese on everything.
Yeah.
So that's completely fair, and he's straight shooter. He's very honest, and I love talking to him today.
Yeah, he's a high energy dude, and he's managed to stay relevant in a number of ways. We didn't even get around to his radio show
Yeah,
and his
so
podcast.
this introduction to Ron's Talk Louder episode today, this is the most I've talked. I get to talk the entire interview.
Yeah, yeah,
I get to talk more in the intro than I do the entire interview, and I
yeah.
love that when our guests are very talkative and loudmouth, and Ron's
And when they
perfect.
have
Yeah.
that much good to say,
Oh yeah. Oh
I'm the
yeah.
same way. I was telling you off camera earlier. I usually pride myself in doing my homework and coming up with questions that they haven't been asked a million times and this sort of thing. And at some point, it occurred to me, it's Ron Keel, man. We're barely going to say hello, and he's going to be off to the races, and it's going to be great because
Yeah.
he is. Very passionate about what he does. He has a lot to say. He's got great energy. So when you get someone like that, you let them tell their story, you know? And back to Keel World, for all of you fans out there that have followed Ron through his whole career, you're going to see names on this album. You're going to see Rick Fox is on the Steeler tune. Dwayne Miller, the drummer from Keel, is there. Bobby Rondinelli plays drums on the Black Sabbath cover, Children of the Grave. Neil Murray plays bass. And all you nerds listening to this show, I know you know who those people are. So he did manage to round up a lot of the people from the original lineups as much as possible. So I think that lends it some legitimacy too. It's not just Ron pulling together people under a moniker that had nothing to do with that moniker. Most of the people on this record had a big part to play in that part of his career. So it makes the bands on the album very genuine. It's the real deal. And I think he does a great job with his segue from the metal into the country stuff. I opened the interview by telling him I remember watching him on MTV, and I just thought he had the greatest, ballsiest metal voice.
Well, see,
You
that
know,
goes back to what we were just talking about. That when I heard that voice, I was like, yes, that's
yeah,
what I want. Claws on the chalkboard. That's what I want. And I
yeah.
get it. He was just learning his voice. He was still young and still working on it. And he admits that. So I get that. You know, I like how he's tying everything together with Keel World. Yes, as we've said, the Black Sabbath story is very interesting. I want people to watch this episode and pay attention to that because it's an interesting story, and we find out how, the connecting how that came together at all.
Yeah.
Um, and I learned something today, so that's cool. But it also, and we an earlier episode, much or years ago now, we did an episode on the Deep Purple family tree. I
Right.
just want to tell you, David, doesn't this put Ron Keel on the Deep Purple tree now?
Jesus. Yeah, that tree's now an orchard. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's
Yeah.
on the Deep Purple family tree now.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yep,
Absolutely.
yep, yeah.
Yeah,
Enjoyed it today.
yeah, exactly. He's a great conversation. Y'all are in for a fun episode. A lot of history with Ron. A lot of it is maybe stuff beyond what you already knew. Most of it is, I think, as Jason said, we all learned something today too, as well. So, great conversation. Great new album. It's called Keel World. It came out August 2nd. You can find it now. Yeah, Ron Keel today on the Talk Louder podcast.